It is the 7th minute of stoppage time at the Hill Dickinson Stadium. Everton are holding on. 3 goals to 1 up against Manchester City. The Everton fans are dreaming of a famous night. The Manchester City fans are silent. And somewhere across the country, every Arsenal supporter has one eye on their phone, watching every update, barely breathing. Then Jeremy Doku picks up the ball. He drives forward. He curls it. Top corner. 3-2. And then just moments later, Erling Haaland has already pulled one back from the restart. Manchester City are level. 3-3. The final whistle goes. And just like that, the Premier League title race changes completely. Welcome back to Jessica Arsenal Analyst. My name is Jessica, and tonight we are breaking down everything that happened on Monday night, what it means for Arsenal, what it means for Manchester City, and what the next few weeks of this season will look like. This is one of the most important moments of this Premier League season, and I want to make sure you fully understand every angle of it. So stay with me until the end of this video, because there is a lot to unpack here, and every single detail matters. The situation is this. Arsenal are now 5 points clear at the top of the Premier League table with only 3 games left to play. Manchester City, despite their remarkable comeback last night, are 5 points behind and have 4 games remaining. The title is now firmly back in Arsenal's hands. But let me take you back to the beginning of Monday night, because the full story of what happened is important. And it tells us a great deal about the state of this title race. Before Monday night kicked off, the situation was still very much alive for Manchester City. They were trailing Arsenal by 6 points but had 2 games in hand. That is a significant advantage in theory. It meant that if City won both of those games in hand, they could pull level with Arsenal or even go above them. The title was still in Manchester City's hands. That phrase is important. It means that their destiny was their own. Win their games and the pressure would be back on Arsenal. Lose points and the door opens for Arsenal to walk through. And that is exactly why the Everton game was so critical for Pep Guardiola's side. They needed a win, not a draw. A win. Anything less would shift the momentum back toward Arsenal and put City in a position where they needed other results to go their way. Now think about what was at stake for Arsenal watching this game. A Manchester City win would have cut their lead to just 3 points with games in hand still to come. That would have been genuine pressure. That would have made the final weeks of the season incredibly tense. But a Manchester City draw or defeat would mean Arsenal could breathe again. It would mean that the title race was back in their control. And that is exactly what happened. Before I continue, I want to say something directly to you watching this video right now. If you want this level of detailed analysis on every major story affecting Arsenal, every turning point in this title race, and every decision that shapes the club's future, then please hit that subscribe button right now. This channel exists to give you the full picture, not just the headlines, and there is a lot more coming in the next few weeks. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and let us keep building this community together. The Everton game first half. Now let us go through exactly what happened on Monday night, step by step. Manchester City dominated the first half. The evidence for this comes directly from Everton manager David Moyes himself, who admitted after the game that his side were, in his own words, hugely outplayed in the first half. That is a remarkable admission. Everton's own manager acknowledging that Manchester City were clearly the better team for the opening 45 minutes. Despite that dominance, goals were hard to come by. Manchester City controlled possession, moved the ball well and pressed high, but Everton defended with real determination and discipline. It took until the 42nd minute for the deadlock to be broken. It was Jeremy Doku who found the opening. The Belgian winger found space in a crowded penalty box and curled in a brilliant strike to make it 1-0. A goal of real quality. A goal that, in that moment, seemed to be enough to send Manchester City into the break with the lead they needed. At halftime, the picture looked good for City. 1-0 up, controlling the game, and seemingly on course for the 3 points that would have kept the title very much in their own hands. The second half collapse. But then everything changed. Everton came out for the second half as a completely different team. Guardiola himself acknowledged this after the final whistle, saying that Everton made a step up in the second half and that his side were not as aggressive. That shift in mentality from the home side proved decisive. The first Everton goal came from a moment that will haunt Manchester City for some time. City defender Mark Guehi played a short back pass. It was intercepted by Everton substitute Thierry Henry. Barry then slipped the ball past Gianluigi Donnarumma to make it 1-1. A defensive error at the highest level. A moment of individual quality from Barry, yes, but also a moment of collective carelessness from City. That goal changed everything about the game. Everton had life, the crowd had life, and Manchester City suddenly looked uncertain. 5 minutes later, Everton struck again. This time it was Jake O'Brien who rose at the near post from a James Garner corner and glanced home a header to make it 2-1. The City defence was disorganised. The marking was poor. And Everton were now in front. The Hill Dickinson Stadium was rocking. 3 goals in 13 minutes from Everton. 3-1 up. The home fans were dreaming. And Manchester City were in serious trouble. The third Everton goal came in the 81st minute. Another Barry strike. A shot deflected into his path and gave him the simplest of finishes. 3-1. Cyrno Barry, the substitute, had transformed the game completely. At this point, some Manchester City fans were already leaving the stadium. 3-1 down with just minutes remaining. The title race appeared to be over. Arsenal were about to have an enormous points advantage. The Manchester City comeback. But this is where the story gets extraordinary. Manchester City refused to give up. And in the final minutes, they produced a remarkable comeback that ultimately kept them alive in the title race, even if only just. Erling Haaland stormed forward and clipped the ball over Jordan Pickford to make it 3-2. It was Haaland's 25th goal of the season. A moment of pure finishing quality from one of the best strikers in world football. Manchester City threw everything forward. The game moved deep into stoppage time. 7 minutes were added. The tension was extraordinary. And then, in the 7th minute of stoppage time, with almost the last kick of the match, Doku curled in another sublime strike to make it 3-3. The same player who opened the scoring had now saved Manchester City from what would have been a catastrophic defeat. The final whistle followed shortly after. 3-3. Manchester City had escaped without a loss, but the title situation had still shifted significantly. Where the title race stands now, let us now look at the numbers clearly, because this is what every Arsenal fan needs to understand. Arsenal currently have 76 points. Manchester City currently have 71 points. The gap is 5 points. Arsenal have 3 games remaining. Those fixtures are West Ham away on May 10th, Burnley at home on May 18th, and Crystal Palace away on May 24th. Manchester City have 4 games remaining. Those fixtures are Brentford at home on May 9th, Crystal Palace at home on May 13th, Bournemouth away on May 19th, and Aston Villa on May 24th. The fact that City have 1 more game than Arsenal is important. But it no longer changes the fundamental picture in the way it did before Monday night. Before the draw, Manchester City had 2 games in hand and were 6 points behind. That meant City's destiny was in their own hands. Win those games, reduce the gap, keep the pressure on. Now, after the draw, City have 1 game in hand and are 5 points behind. The situation is different. The title is no longer in Manchester City's hands. Guardiola confirmed this himself after the final whistle, saying in clear terms, "It is not in our hands. Before it was in our hands. Now no." That is an admission of enormous significance from one of the greatest managers in football history. Pep Guardiola is saying directly that Arsenal are now in control. What Guardiola said and what it means. It is worth spending time on Guardiola's words after the game because they reveal a great deal about where Manchester City now stand mentally. He said that his side played to win. He gave credit to Everton for their composure and aggression. He acknowledged that in the second half, Everton made a step up and that City gave away the goal. He also said that the team showed character in coming back from 3-1 down to earn a point. But the most important moment in his post-match comments was the admission about the title. He confirmed that the situation is now out of City's control. They need to win their remaining 4 games, and they need results to go their way. He also addressed the next challenge, a home game against Brentford, saying it will be quite similar in terms of the difficulty involved. That suggests Guardiola is not taking anything for granted, but he also understands that the path forward is now harder. The reality for Manchester City is that even if they win all 4 of their remaining games, they finish on 83 points. That means Arsenal only need to win 2 of their 3 remaining games to secure the title regardless of what City do. And if Arsenal win all 3, they finish on 85 points, and nothing City do can change the outcome. What Doku said and what it means. Jeremy Doku was the most influential player on the pitch for Manchester City on Monday night. He scored twice. His second goal was described as a sublime strike and came with almost the last kick of the match. Without him, Manchester City lose that game, and the title race is effectively over. His comments after the game are also worth examining. He called the result painful. He said there are a lot of games to go and that everything can happen. He also said that 1 point can still be important in the end. These are the words of a player who knows the situation is difficult but refuses to give up. And that honesty is important. Doku is not pretending the result was acceptable. He is acknowledging that 2 points were dropped and that the pressure is now on Arsenal. But acknowledging the problem does not solve it. The reality for Manchester City remains that the title is no longer in their hands. They can only hope that Arsenal drop points. What Moyes said and what it means for Everton. David Moyes was honest in his assessment of the draw. He said Everton let themselves down by defending the second goal so poorly. He acknowledged that at half-time, a draw would have been a fine result given how dominant City were in the first period. But he also recognised the significance of what his side achieved. Leading 3-1 against Manchester City with less than 10 minutes remaining is a remarkable position to be in. The fact that they could not hold on will sting. But the performance in the second half showed real quality and real character. The situation for Everton is also important to consider. A win would have lifted them to within 2 points of 7th place, which carries European qualification. Instead, they remain in 10th, tied on points with Fulham and Chelsea. The title race implications of this result are enormous for Arsenal. The European implications for Everton are also significant, and their failure to hold on will hurt. Jamie Carragher is clear. Jamie Carragher, one of the most respected voices in English football, was direct in his assessment after Monday night. He said that if Arsenal win their away game at West Ham on May 10th, they have won the league. His exact framing was simple and powerful. Beat West Ham, and it is on. The league is won. He also said that he expects Arsenal to beat Burnley at home without any difficulty. In his view, the only serious test in Arsenal's remaining schedule is the West Ham away fixture. Win that, and the title belongs to Arsenal. He pointed out the numbers clearly. Manchester City would need maximum points from all their remaining games for the title race to go to the final day, and that would only be relevant if Arsenal failed to beat West Ham. These are analytical observations based on the points and fixtures. They are not wishful thinking. They are the logical conclusion of the current situation. Thierry Henry ou discussion? But not everyone was ready to celebrate on Monday night. Former Arsenal title winner Thierry Henry took a more cautious position. Henry said he had predicted earlier that City could drop points at Everton, but that he was also worried about Arsenal's trip to West Ham. He said he was going to stay in his lane and not celebrate too early because, in his words, nothing is done. He also offered an interesting analytical observation about the Everton game. He said he saw a bit of nervousness from Manchester City and that they technically brought Everton back into the match through their own mistakes. That is a fair and honest assessment. The 3 goals City conceded came from poor defensive errors and a lack of concentration. That kind of nervousness can cost any team. Henry's caution is important because he is right. The title has not been won yet. Arsenal still need to perform. The West Ham fixture is not a guarantee. West Ham are in a difficult position in the league table, and teams fighting against relegation or for European football can be unpredictable. But the fundamental truth remains. The situation is now in Arsenal's hands. That is a powerful place to be. The Champions League context. There is another enormous dimension to this story that must be acknowledged. While the Premier League title race is unfolding, Arsenal are also preparing for a massive Champions League semi-final second leg. The situation is that Arsenal face Atletico Madrid in that second leg at home on Tuesday, which is the day after the Everton draw. The focus for the club in the immediate days following Monday night is entirely on that European challenge. Arsenal have a chance to reach their first Champions League final since 2006. The energy inside the Arsenal Stadium on Tuesday will be extraordinary. The context of that match, following the title developments of Monday night, adds an enormous layer of emotion and significance to the occasion. Carragher captured this brilliantly when he said, "From an Arsenal point of view, Monday night is about the league, but think about the excitement the next day." The chance to reach the Champions League final while the Premier League title is in your hands with 2 or 3 weeks to go. That is an extraordinary situation for any football club to be in. Why the West Ham game is the key fixture. Let us now focus specifically on the West Ham fixture because it is clearly the pivotal moment in Arsenal's run-in. West Ham are in a difficult position. They are mentioned in the articles as being relegated or at risk, which means they will be fighting hard. That creates genuine danger for a visiting team. A side with nothing to lose and everything to fight for at home can be unpredictable and physical. That is the concern Thierry Henry raised. That is the element of unpredictability that cannot be dismissed. Arsenal are heavy favourites, but the nature of football means nothing is certain. However, there are also factors that work in Arsenal's favour. They are in form. They have won their recent games against Newcastle United and Fulham. The squad appears focused. And the mental state of the team, heading into a West Ham game knowing that a win could effectively seal the title, will be energised rather than nervous, assuming they manage the pressure well. The reality is that if Arsenal approach that West Ham game with the same discipline and quality they have shown in recent weeks, they are in an excellent position to get the result they need. The bigger picture, what this season would mean for Arsenal. It is important to step back and consider what winning this title would represent for Arsenal Football Club. The situation is clear from everything surrounding this story. Arsenal have not won the Premier League title in over 20 years. That is a long time. That is a generation of supporters who have watched this club come close, fall short, and rebuild. To win the title in this moment with this squad under Mikel Arteta would be a moment of enormous significance for the club. And the manner in which they have fought back into this race makes it even more significant. City beat Arsenal last month and blew the title race open. But the Gunners responded with wins over Newcastle United and Fulham. They did not collapse. They did not panic. They kept winning. That resilience is what defines this Arsenal squad. And it is why, standing here now with 5 points of advantage and 3 games to play, the evidence suggests this is a team ready to complete the job. What happens if Arsenal win the league? Let me lay out clearly what the final weeks could look like, based purely on the facts of the current situation. If Arsenal beat West Ham on May 10th, they go to 79 points. Manchester City, even if they beat Brentford and Crystal Palace, would be on 77 points going into their final 2 games. Arsenal would then only need a single point from their final 2 games, Burnley at home and Crystal Palace away, to be confirmed as champions. The situation is that winning at West Ham does not mathematically guarantee the title immediately, but it puts Arsenal in such a commanding position that the outcome becomes almost inevitable. That is what Carragher means when he says the league is won. The numbers after a West Ham victory are so heavily in Arsenal's favour that the title is effectively secured. What happens if Arsenal drop points? The other scenario must also be addressed honestly. If Arsenal fail to win at West Ham, the title race continues. Manchester City would need to win all of their remaining games. Arsenal would then face a final day scenario where the title could go to the last match of the season. Henry's caution is rooted in this possibility. Football is unpredictable. Results can surprise. And a team that relaxes even slightly can pay a heavy price. But here is the critical point. Even in the scenario where Arsenal lose at West Ham, they still have opportunities to recover. They still play Burnley at home and Crystal Palace away. They still have the quality to get the results they need. The situation is not hopeless even if West Ham proves difficult. The evidence from this season suggests Arsenal know how to respond to adversity. That is the most encouraging thing about where they stand right now. Closing analysis. Let me bring everything together now. Manchester City went to Everton on Monday night needing a win to keep the title in their hands. They led at halftime through a brilliant Doku strike. They then conceded 3 goals in 13 minutes through defensive errors and a lack of concentration. They produced a brave comeback to earn a draw. But the draw was not enough. The result means Arsenal lead the Premier League by 5 points with 3 games to play. The title is now back in Arsenal's hands. Guardiola has confirmed that Manchester City's destiny is no longer their own. And Arsenal's remaining schedule, while not without challenge, is manageable. The key fixture is West Ham away on May 10th. Win that and the title is effectively Arsenal's. Lose that and the pressure returns. But the situation, the numbers and the form all point in Arsenal's favour. Carragher sees a champion. Henry urges caution. Guardiola has admitted the title is out of his side's hands. And Arsenal, meanwhile, are preparing for a Champions League semi-final second leg that could also deliver a place in the biggest club match in European football. This is the most exciting moment this club has experienced in decades. And we are right here watching every second of it unfold. If you found this analysis useful, please subscribe to Jessica Arsenal Analyst right now. Share this video with a fellow Arsenal supporter. Leave a comment below telling me what you think will happen at West Ham on May 10th. I want to hear from every one of you. Stay focused, stay confident, and keep watching because the story is not over yet. The next chapter begins on Tuesday night at the Emirates. And after that, the league title is waiting. This is Jessica Arsenal Analyst. See you in the next one.